All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to be part of the first virtual pollution prevention summer workshop entitled Your Manufacturing Neighbors and Pollution Prevention Best Practices. So usually these summer workshops are in person, but due to the current situation, we have moved these to a virtual platform. So we hope that you will get as much as you usually do from the workshops as you do with this, and we still want it to be an open discussion. So feel free to send comments and questions in the chat box or raise your hand, and I'll explain how to do that in a second, and then we can unmute you and we can still have a good discussion. So this workshop is being put on by the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation's Office of Policy and Sustainable Practices in collaboration with MasterMelt America and Clayton Savannah. So my name is Caleb Powell, and I am an environmental scientist for the Office of Policy and Sustainable Practices at TDEC, and I will be hosting the webinar or virtual workshop today for our wonderful speakers. Everyone is muted upon entry to reduce the amount of background noise, but if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, like I said, feel free to ask those in the chat. And what I'm doing right now is I'll go ahead and send a message to everyone to sort of show where the chat box is. It's over on that right-hand sign under participants. So you can send that to all participants. You can send it to just me specifically, or you can send it to one of the speakers. I would probably suggest just going ahead and send it to everyone so everyone can see the comment or question that you have, or just sending it to me privately, and I'll make sure that our speakers get those questions and get those answered. So you can also raise your hand if you would like to rather actually speak your question or your comment. Right over above the chat, there's like a little hand emoji. And you can click that, and it'll raise your hand, and I can go in there and unmute you if you want to actually speak to our speakers or give some information about something, one of the topics that we're going to be talking about. To give an overview of what's going to be covered today, so this workshop will be highlighting the pollution prevention best practices that Clayton Savannah and MasterMelt America have achieved while manufacturing homes and processing precious metals. We'll be learning specifically about how these two facilities are using innovative materials management efforts to reduce their waste. Our presenters have a wealth of knowledge and experience that will help us better understand what's going on in Tennessee and just how to overcome some problems that you might have with reducing your waste. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it on over to our first presenter, and that is Larry Blue. He is the plant manager at MasterMelt America, LLC. So you've got the floor, Larry.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Caleb. My name is Larry Blue, as Caleb mentioned, from MasterMelt America. We are a group of companies that are international precious metals refiners. A little bit of background information on myself. Right now, I'm the plant manager for MasterMelt America. I work with our sales group as well as our EH&S manager, which is Mark Degnan Jr., and he's also on this webinar with me if you have any particular environmental questions that I can't answer. We develop custom production processes to meet the needs of our customers. My prior background, I worked for 15 years at a company by the name of AVX Corporation as their corporate EH&S manager. The founder of our company, I worked with as a part of that company in the precious metals program. As you can see, 40% was EH&S auditing, 30% was remediation projects worldwide, and then 10% was on the precious metals, and then 20% was on our day-to-day EH&S programs, with my having 2 direct reports for facilities. Should I get this down? So the precious metals reclaim and recycling program, the group focuses on recovery of these precious metals that you see on the right. The production, scrap, and waste streams and end-of-life products and components are our primary focus. We offer an in-house assay facility as well as financial services when it comes to settlements with these customers. As you can see from the map that I showed you, we have operations in the UK as well as in Europe, in Germany. And we have facilities in Asia, in Singapore. And in the US, we have our facility in Tennessee, and then we just recently opened up another operation, Master Melt Connexus, which is in Terrell, Texas, which is just outside of Dallas. Master Melt America, here in Sweetwater, Tennessee, our objective is to eliminate waste by recovering the hidden values. Now, what that means is that we take the scrap from other companies and that have recoverable precious metals, and I'll go over this a little bit further in the slides. Master Melt is located in Sweetwater, Tennessee. We have a campus that's about 24 acres. The square footage is actually closer to 100,000. Some mistakes was made there. We have a little over 80 employees. Our objective there is thermal reduction, chemical processing, melting, and cutting and processing. The campus consists of 4 buildings: a thermal reduction, melt shop, and warehouse. Building 2 is a prep department, analytical labs, and that department is expanding. And then our headquarters administration for U.S. operations. And then building 4 is our superalloy and aerospace processing division. The facility is designed and built to meet the specific needs of our customers. As a precious metals recovery company, we do not manufacture a widget. We take other people's materials and then take those materials and process them to recover the various types of precious metals that may be part of that stream. Our management team, including the owner of the company, Mark Degnan, started the company in 2006, but the sales force and combination of analytical lab folks has over 200 years experience and knowledge in the precious metals industry and the industries we service. For example, electronics, which is where I came from. Master Melt America is one of the newest precious metals processing facilities in North America and houses state-of-the-art and BAT, which is best developed technology in the industry as it relates to our type of production process. Master Melt America LLC provides precious metals reclaim services to a number of Fortune 50 companies across the U.S., and our main market focuses are, as you can see on the right, could be electronics, could be electroplating, automotive, petrochemical, semiconductor, dental, pharmaceutical, aerospace, agro-based industries. Most of what we focus in comes from the catalyst type business. There's catalysts in automobiles, there's catalysts in manufacturing of pharmaceutical chemicals, there's catalysts involved in the manufacturing, let's say, of like materials like Roundup. So hidden in those things, in the catalyst, the precious metals is the catalyst. So it does not go into the product, but is retained, but it creates the reaction that occurs that allows them to make the active ingredients in their products. And so when those components become worn out or of less value in production process, they don't want to dispose of that material. They want to send it to us so we can recover the precious metals, which allows them to then go back into the industry and not have to buy these precious metals at the market price. Master Melt is not a TSDF, which is a hazardous waste disposal facility, but a precious metals recovery company. However, because of a rule change in the early 80s, Master Melt is allowed to accept hazardous waste shipments as long as the material meets certain requirements spelled out in 40 CFR 266.7 subpart F, which is the reclaimed materials utilization for precious metals recovery. All materials processed through Master Melt are evaluated for recoverable value to meet our strict EH&S protocol, which is managed by Mark Degnan Jr. We work with our customers to design the most cost-effective methods for recovering these materials as well. Some of the highlights of, and I'll go through these individually as we go through this, some of the highlights, these are our 2019 stats. So as 2020 closes, we'll reproduce these stats for this year. In 2019, the facility operates as a zero wastewater discharge facility. Annually, we process 504,000 pounds of wastewater. We are a conditionally exempt small quantity generator. We initiated a wood recycling program in October of 2019, and through October through the end of the year, we recycled 10,420 pounds for the wood. We realized recovery of precious metals from 1,052,000 and change pounds of hazardous waste classified materials, and then we processed over 5.3 million pounds of precious metals bearing materials. In addition to the super alloy processing, over 3 million pounds to recover nickel, cobalt, stainless steel, and titanium, and other types of super alloys. Being a zero discharge facility in 2014, Mastermount realized that we could become a zero discharge facility. Although we do have a sewer use permit, which is maintained with the local sewer authority, we choose not to discharge, and we have an agreement with the city that if we choose to go ahead and discharge, we will notify them and we will do some additional testing. But we do maintain quarterly testing and maintain our permit. In 2019, as I mentioned earlier, we processed 504,000 pounds or 60,000 gallons of wastewater through our facility, which is what we use for parts of the production process, as well as in the ovens to recover any fugitive precious metals that may exist there. This was a risk reduction program that we implemented, and the risk obviously would be permit issues with the discharge to the sewer authority. In 2019, the wood recycling program was implemented, which is first, Mastermount is a conditionally exempt small quantity generator, but in 2019 we began a wood recycling and pallet recovery program. Our super alloy division receives the majority of its shipments in wood crates and pallets on a continuous basis, and that necessitated the implementation of the MMA wood recycling program. Typically, these pallets and crates would have been required to go to the landfill because they are not suited for reuse. They're broken for most part. So as a result of that, and we're working on this even more so today, the program that started in October did generate or recovered 10,400 pounds of wood. The question is, what would they do with that? Well, in most cases, they would grind it up, and in some cases, actually use it for landscape type material. Additionally, in 2019, the solid waste side, pre-1985, the majority of all waste materials containing precious metals were disposed of as a waste, in most cases, or in some cases, hazardous waste. And the reason for that is because you have a 90-day rule as it relates to containing materials. You didn't have the exemption for the precious metals recovery side of this particular waste stream. So the majority of the materials generated in the time frame in the early 80s, and I'm dating myself, I can remember these specifically being written, caused a lot of material, that very valuable material, to be put into landfill, and as a result of which may have resulted in contributing to the Superfund sites as a result of off-site disposal. Post-1985, the solid waste amendments, companies were able to use services such as MMA to recover the precious metals present in their waste streams, solid and hazardous waste. In 2019, Mastermount processed well over 5.3 million pounds of precious metals containing materials that is no longer deemed waste. These materials are important, valuable stream for our customers. And what I mean by that is if in the early 80s, if I had to dispose of my, let's say, gold plating solution for a plater because it was spent, and I couldn't recover it because it's an F006. The problem you have there is there's a lot of value in that material that was wasted and or lost, and it caused the companies to purchase new material to replace it. So they have to buy the precious metals at a market price versus a recoverable price, which they already bought the material, it's there, the precious metals is available if they can recover it. Then it's their metal to put into new material. This is slightly outdated, but it'll give you an idea of what we're talking about. In the rhodium category, there's 14.5, there's a whole lot of numbers behind that, but 14.5 troy ounces in a pound. So what I did is I did this two ways to help everybody kind of understand what we're talking about per pound of material. So if you do with rhodium, it's $12,950 per troy ounce. 1 pound of that material may be worth $187,000. Palladium, again, $2,500, so you're looking at $36,000 a pound. Gold, which everybody thinks is the most valuable, is about $22,000 per pound. And then platinum, $12,000 per pound. Silver, that silver number is almost actually doubled. It's up to about $29 a pound, so it's about $400 a pound, or $29 a troy ounce. So you can see the value of the material in here and the value in recovering this material for our customers. In 2019 waste reduction programs, this gives a little bit more detail as it relates to how we have the exemption that allows us to process this material. Mastermelt is conditionally exempt small quantity generators, I mentioned before. In January of 1985, the federal government posted in the Federal Register the 40 CFR 266.7 subpart F, recycling materials utilized for precious metals recovery, which went into effect in July 5th of 1985. EPA's goal was to help reduce or eliminate sources of hazardous waste that contain the various precious metals mentioned below. Prior to the above exemption, a large portion of this material was a hazardous waste and had to be disposed as such. And in 2019, Mastermelt received via hazardous waste manifest 1,052,916 pounds of hazardous waste. But as I mentioned, we're not a TSDF, but those hazardous waste contained recoverable precious metals. And so that is a key component in what we do. And we have certainly been audited and looked at numerous times by both customers and agency folks for our program. A different direction we went a number of years later was to look at the superalloy. Now, we originally looked at the superalloy business, which is those components that are used in land-based turbines as well as aircraft, was that there was precious metals, platinum, on the internal turbine blades, which is a hot zone. And we had to recover those precious metals for some of our customers. As a result of that, we found that there is, in fact, a business in doing the superalloy recoverables. So Mastermelt started the Mastermelt Aerospace Alloy Recovery Program. And in 2019, we did 1.9 million pounds received for processing. As a result of that, in 2019, we recovered about 1,600 troy ounces of platinum. Additionally, we were able to recover these type of various superalloys, which are then allowed to be put back into the industry through the process known as reverb. Mastermelt has several accreditations. We are a Title V air permit facility. We do have an EPA ID number. We are a CHUMEG member, and I'll explain what that is shortly. ISO 9001, 14001, Tennessee Green Star Program, International Precious Metals Institute, and London Platinum and Palladium Markets, as well as the Air Fleet Recycling Association. CHUMAG, I was introduced to CHUMAG when I first came to the company in 2014. They were in the midst of their CHUMAG audit. CHUMAG is a nonprofit trade association comprised of manufacturers and similar industry organizations, which combine their efforts through this group. And CHUMAG members are concerned about potential environmental liabilities associated with waste and spent materials that are related to their companies and manufacturing businesses. CHUMAG is a has a facility review program which allows members to obtain critical environmental, operational, and financial information related to facilities that treat, dispose of, recycle, and store manufactured materials and spent materials. Examples of CHUMAG members include most of the petroleum refiners, Air Products, AT&T, Boeing, Duke Energy, Northrop Grumman, GE, Intel, TRW, Automotive, Nokia, United Technologies, and a lot of the pharmaceutical industry. So, and we are not a member of CHUMAG. We can be audited by CHUMAG. We can't see the results of the audit, but they do tell our customers whether or not we're good or bad. And then we've done the Green Star Partnership Award. I'm going to pick it up a little bit. We all know what that is because we're all sitting here in this chat room. Process-wise, we do chemical processing, smelting, surface preparation, chemical dissolving, thermal pretreatment, powder preparation, and precipitation from acids and cyanide solutions. We receive materials into the warehouse through an SDS program. It is entered into our NAV system, which allows us to monitor if something has a valid quote so we can process it. We process a large majority of our materials, at 5.3 million pounds, through the thermal reduction process. And that allows us to reduce the material to a fine ash material, which is then put through various techniques and sampling, processing techniques that allows us to, let me go back this one, allows us to reduce this material to a very fine powder grade material, which then we run through a statistically valid sampling process. We also do spent solutions through thermal reduction and precipitation. And we also will be and have worked on plating techniques that allow us to recover the precious metals into copper, which then allows us to leach out various types of precious metals. The sampling techniques that we use, we'll get a truckload of material in, and the objective is to take that material and reduce it to a very fine powder or a tin sample if it's a melt technique. The objective is to get a statistically valid sample. We're taking a truckload of material and reducing it to a few grams of sample for analysis. So the entire process that we start from thermal reduction through milling, screening, is for the purpose of getting that statistically valid sample that is run in our laboratory, which has been approved by Johnson Matthey, which is a large precious metals manufacturing company. We do fire assays for our analysis to determine value of the material using a bead technique that then allows us to digest it and use gravimetrics for analysis as well as ICP analysis. We do an acid treatment, as I mentioned. That is the technique that's actually used to recover the platinum off the turbine blades. So one of the things that we did with our sister company is Singapore opened up an operation, and it's a joint venture between Eco Special Waste Manufacturing, or a management which is a hazardous waste disposal facility in Singapore. And then we joined them, and we helped them to start the recoverables of precious metals for the Asian market. So it is a very unique combination of companies between Echo and Mastermelt, and we provided advanced models of precious metals refining and recovery. There we work very closely with them to help develop techniques, and the facility is doing very well. As you can see, I put this model up here just to give you an idea. Is this is the eco-environmental facility, and this small area back here is where the Mastermelt, eco-Mastermelt complex is located for the purpose of recovering precious metals. We work very closely with them, and then the last but not least is our Mastermelt facility that is located in Texas, Terrell, Texas, and it is Connexus Mastermelt, Mastermelt Connexus. We acquired that facility a couple months ago, and that adds to our superalloy precious metals business for the aerospace industry. With that, I'd like to turn it back to Caleb. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Larry. And I'll say that I've actually been able to go to Mastermelt twice and tour it twice, and it is just a outstanding facility. You guys do a great job there, and you know, it's crazy that you're doing so much for materials management and, you know, repurposing of those precious metals that, and a lot of people don't even know that, you know, that exists, or especially that it's in Tennessee. So thanks so much for what you guys do. And I'm not seeing any questions right now, but feel free, if you have any questions for Larry, to send those. We'll do some more questions at the end once we hear from Lisa, and we'll get those answered for you. Thanks so much, Larry. So next, I would like to pass it over to Lisa Luan. She is the Environmental Health and Safety Manager at Clayton Savannah. Clayton Homes, you've probably heard of them. They, I'm not going to get too far into it because that's what Lisa's here to do. But they make prefabricated homes, and I'll be honest with you, I was completely taken back being able to go to these prefabricated manufacturing facilities and just to see the teamwork that goes into it and how sustainable they are able to make their processes when it's sort of hard. I mean, they don't have like a cookie cutter design, so all their waste and everything comes pretty different depending on the product that they're making. So Lisa's going to talk to us a little bit about what they've done, and I'm excited to hear from her. So you have the floor, Lisa.
All right, thank you, Caleb. I appreciate that. Let me go ahead and share my screen here so we can. All right, can you guys see that all right?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, well, let me go ahead and just give you a little bit of background on Clayton, because I think that it's a bit of a surprise for some people to learn that we are more than just a home builder. So getting started quickly here, Clayton was originally founded in 1956, opening its first home center in 1966, quickly becoming one of America's largest home builders. We do offer site-built homes, off-site built homes, which include modular and manufactured homes, tiny homes, college dormitories, military barracks, apartments, and even a new category of homes that's kind of been introduced called cross-mod, and we'll get into what that is exactly here in a minute. One of the most important things that happened for us, though, is in 2003, we were acquired, excuse me, we were acquired by Berkshire Hathaway. Since then, our brand has expanded to include financial services, material supplies, and transportation, with the three primary divisions being retail, financial, and then home building. On our financial side, that would include like Vanderbilt Mortgage, 21st Mortgage, Home First, and Silverton. On our retail side, those are the actual home centers where you can go and order a home, purchase a home, and there's several different brands under that, which would be like True Value, Crossland, GI, Clayton, and Oakwood. And then with our home building group, that's basically what we're going to be focusing on today. That consists of Clayton Manufacturing, Clayton Connect, Supply, and then our Clayton Properties group. With Clayton Supply, that's really has proved to be our most impactful asset to cost savings. By having our own supply company, it means that we can source a lot of the materials internally by purchasing in bulk and then delivering those materials with our own transportation trucks. It lowers the cost of our materials and allows us to pass that savings along to our homeowners. Clayton Connect would be our fleet of trucks that are able to deliver our homes and supplies. Under our properties group, that would be our site build division. That's our traditional kind of stick build homes. It's also our fastest growing division in the company currently. That includes a new category home, which we call cross mod, which is kind of a blend between your traditional site build and your off-site build. It utilizes the best of both, where we're building in a climate-controlled environment and then shipping those components out to the site where that site build then puts everything together. So you're really having the convenience of both on those. For our home building group, our manufacturing side has 40 home building facilities across the U.S. That would be like our facility here in Savannah, Clayton, Savannah. There are actually 8 home building facilities within Tennessee. We are the only one in West Tennessee. The other 7 would be in East Tennessee. Those brands that you're going to find as home building groups are going to be under the Clayton brand, then like True, Norris, SE Homes, Giles, Golden West. Just depends on what part of the nation that you're in terms of what brand that you're going to find. But they are all under the same umbrella of Clayton. Each of our home building facilities are ISO 14001 registered. The specific processes and numbers that you'll see in this presentation, though, just reflect our Clayton Savannah site here. I think we all recognize that pollution prevention and waste reduction are important steps, not just to demonstrate environmental stewardship, but for the overall just effectiveness of our manufacturing processes and then the kind of financial gains that you get through conservation. But really, when it comes to an environmental program, kind of what we learned is there's just 2 factors that really matter. You know, the first is it making a difference? You know, are you having an actual impact? And then secondly, is it sustainable? You know, does it cost you money or is it creating money? If we're being really honest, you know, while the first factor makes it the right thing to do, it's the second factor that makes it possible for us to do. So let me just share a little bit about the actual program impact for our site here. As you can kind of see, 2015 was before we had implemented our quest for ISO 14001 certification. And 2016 was really our first year developing that environmental program. So while things didn't happen overnight, there was definitely a steady progression. Most important part of that was that it showed that this program was sustainable. And kind of the totals and what you see on there includes, you know, the cost avoidance, continuous improvement, as well as any recycling income. When it came to just evaluating the effectiveness of the program kind of on our own work environment, it was pretty easy. We didn't have to look at a spreadsheet or the numbers to see the positive impact. Just simply walking around our facility, you saw less dust, fewer harmful chemicals, you know, a cleaner, better organized work area. It all led to a more positive environment for our team members as well. In addition to the waste reduction that we were able to see, we also had significant reductions in natural resources and harmful pollutants as well. So, off-site building. Our team members, they really make it look easy. But that's not to say that just because you're working in a controlled environment that it isn't without its challenges. And Caleb kind of used the perfect word there in saying that for us, one of the biggest challenges we have is that our homes aren't cookie cutter. You know, every home that we build is custom, so it's a little bit different. To give you an example of that, when we're talking about sheetrock internally for the homes, we have 24 different color or styles or designs that, you know, a homeowner can choose from. So you're not dealing with just one stream of simple waste. You have 24 different options that are creating more waste. On the vinyl siding that are going on the outside of the homes, there's 14 different color variations that they can choose from. Then you have different options like porches or dormers, you know, your tile walk-through showers. There's a lot of materials that go into building a home, and so that's a huge challenge for us. On average, if you will take a look at your traditional site-built homes, on average they're creating about 4 tons of waste for a 2,000 square foot home. Off-site built homes, because of how we're able to design and lay materials out, you can create significantly less waste. And we'll kind of take a look at where we are in that process. So for us here, let me move that out of the way. We currently, before we started the ISO program, we were averaging about 2.5 tons of waste for a 2,000 square foot home. But in the last year, we've been able to decrease that by over 60%. 2020 numbers, we are averaging about 1 ton of waste for approximately a 2,000 square foot home, which is a fantastic decrease, but it's still a lot of waste. So we still have some room to grow on that. So the question then became, with so many facilities kind of struggling, and all of us, I think, with the same sort of issues, whether it's a loss of recyclers, you know, the Chinese embargo on solid waste, or logistical roadblocks, the question being kind of, how did you do it? And for us, it really came down to a lot of creative and strategic thinking, kind of constantly evaluating our processes and how we could do it better. When it came to reducing waste, we really spent time looking at the processes in how we were building, looking at the material packaging. We started buying more in bulk, talking to suppliers about how they ship items to us, or even came down to how we chose vendors based on whether or not they were willing or able to take back scrap of their own product to kind of reduce the amount of waste here and being able to make it a more of a life cycle product. And I'll show you an example of that in just a moment. So on source reduction, that's really where we were looking at our process changes. For example, for some of our walls, it was as simple as looking at the sheetrock and just maybe cutting it differently than we thought about cutting it before, where we're able to get more than just one particular piece out of a sheet of sheetrock. It was just a different mindset. You know, it's easy to get kind of caught in the same way that you've always done something, but if you're willing to kind of reevaluate just the process itself, sometimes those subtle, simple changes make huge differences. When we swapped to LED light bulbs, for example, as well, you know, in our homes, we're going to test out every light fixture in the house. And so as soon as the lights are installed, you know, we put light bulbs in them and that kind of travel through the house just to make sure that everything works properly. The original, you know, CFL bulbs that we were using in the beginning, they're very fragile and they broke. We had a lot of waste. Obviously, when a light bulb breaks, it then becomes, you know, your hazardous waste, so it's an expensive waste. When we swapped over to the LEDs, not only do they last longer, but they're very durable, and we created this in-house reuse kind of system where we're recycling those light bulbs, and we're finding now that the LED bulbs are lasting well over a year in that process, to where before, when we're using the CFLs, you know, you'd be lucky if you had a month's use out of a light bulb. So that was a huge change for us, and definitely a big decrease in waste. We've even taken it so far as we provide a supply of LED lighting for every home that we send out, just so that we can pass that along for the homeowners as well. Examples of kind of bulk purchasing that made a difference for us in our cleaning process, you know, when we're cleaning the homes, we were utilizing wood polish, and buying them individual, bottles, and we never really thought much about it. But not only were you buying that product, you were then disposing of the containers that they came in, as special waste, and simply going to a bulk container and refilling bottles ended up being a huge cost savings source as well. So it's just simple things, kind of looking at that. When looking at some of our reduction efforts, just ordering pre-cut materials was a big thing for us. And that also kind of tied in with other departments, kind of really going in line with like our Six Sigma. When you're looking at pre-cut material, you're automatically eliminating the opportunity for any kind of error. And if our goal is to reduce the amount of waste created and our craftsmen's goals are to eliminate defects, those both are working at the same goal. So if we're doing it right the first time, and actually ordering it the way we need it, then you're not creating excess waste in rework as well. On-site reuse, this is where we really spent time in each department just looking at every process that they were doing. Where we would have scrap from one department, we were finding that there are a lot of other areas within our facility that those quote-unquote scraps could be reused. Using our wood, for example, just identifying other areas of the plant where we could use the scrap wood as opposed to new pieces of wood. Just in 2019, we were able to reuse 155 tons of wood that would have ordinarily gone to the landfill. So it's been a pretty successful venture. In terms of off-site, we've discovered if there's a material that we are unable to reuse in our process on-site, we've been trying to identify other businesses or facilities that can reuse that. An example kind of that I'm going to show you there in the pictures that you saw on the screen is the sheetrock that we get in. Sheetrock is a huge waste stream for us, and any way that we can find to recycle bits of sheetrock we've been working on. And what you see there are the runners that come in between the stacks of sheetrock. We work with a vendor that we get the sheetrock from, and they're needing runners all the time. So we've worked out, we resack and pallet the runners, and then when they make the deliveries of the sheetrock, they'll take the runners back. And that's been a substantial, you wouldn't think that it would make that big of a difference, but just in 2019 alone, that accounted for 300 tons of waste that would have gone to the landfill that we're now able to recycle back to that vendor and reuse. So again, just kind of looking at some of the supplies you get in or materials that come in, if there's a vendor that's willing to take some of that back, it makes a huge difference. Then just on the recycling side, we've been very fortunate that we have quite a few items that we're able to recycle. Pretty much every type of metal we recycle: wire, wood, pallets, number 2 plastic, our vinyl siding, PVC pipe, carpet, insulation, just a huge list of items. Like most of us, we do have issues and roadblocks that kind of get in the way. Our rural location has definitely been one of the largest roadblocks because we do not have many recyclers in this area, and when we are able to find a recycler, then often logistics is a big issue for us. So one of the things we've really started looking at is partnerships with other companies or utilizing our own supply companies when they drop off supplies for us, about the potential of backloading that truck with some of our recycling. Maybe we don't have recycling in this area, but they might where they're located at, so they can actually transport that back. We've been able to do that with a couple of items. We're hoping to continue to expand on that. But it's kind of a work in progress, but that's definitely our largest roadblock. And then, just getting our team members to buy in on the program, because if your employees or your team members aren't really truly backing your efforts on recycling, then it's going to be a struggle. So that was really something that we focused on, and it was one of the vital differences for us, and kind of how we got their buy-in on that was really explaining to them why it was important to recycle. And the thing that I kind of did for them on that was showing them these graphics, all right? So the EPA has a statistic out there that on average, every person in the U.S. creates 4.5 pounds of waste a day. And that's pretty amazing that we do that. But that would also explain why we've had such a growth of landfills as well. And you'll see that on this next little video here. Keep an eye on Tennessee. It's amazing. This is going to show the history of landfills, kind of the last decade or two, and up through, and this only goes through 2013, but that's, it's a pretty scary statistic when you look at that. Nobody wants a landfill in their backyard, so that's kind of how we've encouraged our team members, because we don't currently have a landfill in Hardin County where we're located, and if there's anything that we can do to help keep that from happening, we're going to. And so the efforts that we're doing here, we like to think are definitely adding to that not happening in our area. So some of the recycling that we're able to do is based on the material choices that we've made. The example I like to use on that is for our vinyl siding. We made a decision to purchase from Plygem, who has been a fantastic partner for us. They are very environmentally responsible as well, and they try to recycle as much of their own product as they can. So it's worked out well for us. We now get our siding in large crates, as you can see there in the photo. As we use that siding, any of the scrap materials that are left over, we refill back into those crates and ship back to the vendor. Plygem then takes it, grinds it down, and is able to reuse it back into their product, which is pretty outstanding because we now have a true life cycle product. And we've been looking at doing that with as many of the vendors and suppliers that we can, just because it's, you know, it's the ideal structure. So that's definitely made a difference for us. The other thing is really kind of knowing our waste types, because if you're not familiar with what exactly the waste is that you're creating, then it's more difficult to find outlets for it. We struggled a long time with PVC pipe. Nobody really wanted to take PVC. And, you know, as you can see there, we create quite a bit of it in our process of home building. And it wasn't until I really realized that, well, okay, our vinyl siding is the same exact material. So I reached out again to Plygem, and after a few discussions, and we sent them a few samples of what our scrap PVC looked like, they agreed to take it. So they're just by, you know, recognizing they're the same types of plastic, you know, it opened up another avenue for disposing of waste that we would have ordinarily sent to the landfill. Now we're able to recycle back to one of our vendors. Up above in the upper corner there, you'll see electrical spools that our wire comes on. It's number 2 plastic, so no different than our bottles of water. We have a local county vendor that takes number 2 plastic, so the only thing they were requesting were their water bottles initially, but when we showed them, you know, the spools and that they were number 2 plastic, that became another avenue for us to recycle as opposed to send to the landfill. Then comes, you know, just kind of being a little creative. We, unfortunately, you know, we try to create healthy habits here, but we do have quite a few smokers, and they kind of tease me a little bit because nobody realizes that you can actually recycle cigarette butts. And we've started that, and it's, you know, it's kind of silly, we thought at first, and we were using it more just to be, you know, responsible in our areas, keeping them cleaned up. But it turns out that we are one of the largest collectors of cigarette butts in the state. I'm not sure if that's something to brag about or not, but it's my favorite example to show that there are outlets out there for pretty much everything if you look hard enough to recycle. On some of the pallets, you know, we receive materials of all shapes and sizes, so we have quite a collection of pallets, not just your standard size, but some rather large ones as well. and the larger pallets are generally difficult to take, to find someone to take. And again, it came down to being a little creative, but we found a fantastic outlet for our larger pallets. We have a sod company that utilizes them for placing their sod on, and so that's turned out to be a very good partnership as well. And then, given our rural location, Call to Recycle has been a huge help for us, as well as TerraCycle, because they both have the mail order programs where it's either flat fee just for postage or there's no cost whatsoever. We utilize that for our batteries as well. Pretty much, you know, the housing industry is really transforming, and because we can kind of control the process a little better on the off-site side, our site build has been learning those processes as well. And that's kind of really where you're starting to see the blurring of those lines, where they're kind of really crossing. And I think they'll continue to see that, which is a great thing, because if our on-site construction can start recycling or reducing that amount of waste in their processes, it only benefits all of us. But we're kind of excited to be the leader in that area and category, and it's, you know, pretty exciting to be part of a company that not only is kind of on the leading edge of home building, but one that promotes being responsible and building in a responsible way, and not just in the building processes, but in actually incorporating those same kind of standards into the homes that we're building. And we do that by, you know, all of our houses, you know, they're coming with Energy Star appliances. They're coming with a smart thermostat. We're using the new carrier furnaces, low E windows. Anything that we can incorporate into the house that's going to promote that sustainability, we do, because we feel like it's the right thing to do, and you know, it only helps our home buyers and the quality of the homes that we're building. And you know, it takes a lot of work. It's always a challenge. I don't know that it ever gets easier, but it's most definitely worth it. And if any of you guys have questions about anything that you saw in the presentation or anything you'd like to discuss, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you or answer any questions. And Caleb, that's about all I've got.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's funny, I've been to your facility twice, but every time I hear more stuff about it, I learn. So I wanted to say thanks for that. And right off the bat, we had a few questions for you. Let's see. I had a resounding 4 questions about the cigarette butts. People are saying, where do you recycle the cigarette butts? Where do the cigarette butts go? How do we do this?
Yeah,
so,
that's pretty fantastic. Yeah, it's a fantastic program. You can actually just go online to TerraCycle. It's 100% free. You collect the cigarette butts. You can do it online. You actually order. You tell them when you're ready to send them back. You can print out a postage paid label. It's super simple. I don't know that they provide this every single time, but there are times where they can actually provide you with the number of cigarette butts that you've sent in. It's a little scary. I will give you an example. Just for last month, we recycled 14,300 cigarette butts.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So yeah, and I didn't even know that was like a thing. So I'm really appreciative for you shining light on that, and I think that that's something that a lot of people will be able to take advantage of. And so let's see. Someone just said, what's the name of the cigarette butt recycling company, but you said that it's TerraCycle?
Yes.
Okay, and then, let's see, so I had somebody that was asking about so have you partnered with any of the other Green Star partners? I mean, so this webinar is about like our manufacturing neighbors in Tennessee or, you know, in our area. And so this is sort of a question for Larry and you, Lisa. How have you been able to use the Green Star Partnership and learn about other facilities and work with those facilities if you have?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So I've had a couple of conversations with you know, some of our other Green Star partners here, and the most beneficial for me at this point has been, you know, really having someone else who's in the same struggles, you know, because I think all of us have, we may be dealing with different materials, but we're having the same struggles, and it's kind of nice sometimes to, you know, talk through that. Or where one of us may be struggling with one material, someone else may have found the answer for it. And as far as partnering, actually working on a partnership right now, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, and I think on the other end, Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were able to, when you were talking about last year getting that wood recycling and the pallet recycling, and like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you able to talk to one of our other Green Star partner members, I think Lazy Boy, that's sort of near you, and figure out what they're doing with their wood waste, and it sort of makes that connection. And basically what I'm trying to say is like knowing the manufacturers that are near you, near your facility, and sharing best practices is always such a good theme to, you know, figure out where those hard to get rid of wastes can go.
Yeah, absolutely, Caleb. Yeah, Mark Degnan Jr., our EH&S manager, was in contact with them, and it has been a part of the review for things like our wood recycling program. But additionally, what we've ended up doing is actually have had some inquiries from some of the webinars you've had with other companies that are realizing that there are streams within their facilities that are of value in the precious metals side. Obviously, everybody looks at copper. Okay, everybody recycles copper, or you know, plastics, and certainly is a good example. We've had several inquiries that have come through the Green Star program as it relates to, can we help them out with evaluating their precious metal side? And what we do is we do certainly offer that as an option, lab services. If there's something they believe has one of the various precious metals in it, we'll analyze it for them and determine whether or not there's recoverable value there. So absolutely, we have worked with several of the partners in this program.
We have quite a few other questions coming in, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to share my screen and show, if you're unaware of the Green Star Partnership and you think that your manufacturing facility could possibly be a part of that, we'd love to get you in the partnership and this community of sharing best practices. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to share, let's see, my screen to show you where our map is, where you can sort of see our Green Star partners and maybe the closest one to you, and you know, maybe reach out to them and see if they have a solution to some waste that you have or some sort of problem. Let me show you guys real quick. So I'm going to show, so you should be able to see my, and this is the tn.gov, and what I'll do is I'll send this link to in the follow-up email. But basically, we go down to our Green Star Partnership page, and then right here, you can see all of our partners throughout the state. You click on this, and then it's going to give you an interactive map that shows all of our partners, what they do, and it's just, I think, a really great tool to be able to use to see, you know, the partners that are near you. These are, in my opinion, sustainability leaders in the manufacturing sector around the state. So I think it's something that would be definitely beneficial to use to just see what people are doing. So also, I want to get back to these questions. Let's see. So I had a question that says, well, you just sort of answered that. Larry was asking about, do you guys, your customer base in Tennessee, but you sort of sort of hit on that. Someone said, is Clayton looking into using sustainable materials like hemp into building homes? So that was for you, Lisa.
You know, that's a great question. We are constantly evaluating materials, and we definitely are looking to build more sustainable products into our home as long as they make sense. We have a pretty strict, you know, quality assurance program, and basically our home office, you know, they have an entire department that looks purely at materials and kind of what's in the future. As far as hemp at this point in time, I don't honestly know, but we really just take our direction from them.
Awesome. Let's see, we got a question that says, do corporate recycling vendor contracts inhibit local solutions? National contracts often cause obstacles for many industries that I work with. So I don't know, I mean, anybody, Larry or Lisa can jump in on that. I'm guessing, yeah, the questions go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, from our standpoint, we do enter into corporate contracts as it relates to the precious metal sides with larger companies, but then it goes down to the facility-specific requirements. Does it interfere? It in a way, in some cases, it does, because it takes away the flexibility from the facilities. It takes away the flexibility to work with the local folks, because everything is directed from the corporate office, and it's a less personal approach.
Definitely. Let's see, Lisa, we had someone that says, thanks for using Plygem, as they are now part of our company Cornerstone Building brand. So that's just a comment, a thankful comment. And then one last thing, it says, how can I get a copy of the landfill slide video used in the Clayton Homes presentation? So I'm guessing it's the one that shows like how many landfills have been in the nation.
Yep. I'd be happy to email that out to anyone who'd like it.
Okay. Yeah, and I can connect the person that asked with you later on, and then so I don't think there's any more questions. We're a little bit over time, so first off, I just wanted to say thanks for spending the time with us today, learning about your manufacturing neighbors here in the great state of Tennessee, and then also pollution prevention best practices that MasterMelt America and Clayton Savannah have used in their day-to-day facility jobs. And so I wanted to also highlight that tomorrow the Tennessee Recycling Coalition will be having a webinar. It's going to be something very similar to this. We're going to actually just be specifically learning about Lazy Boy. They're one of our Green Star partners in Dayton, Tennessee, and we're going to just go along on their waste to landfill or zero waste to landfill journey. So tune into that. I will make sure I send that out to in the follow-up later today, the registration for that, if you want to sort of learn more about how they've the trials and tribulations for how they've become zero waste to landfill. Also, our next virtual pollution prevention summer workshop this is our first one. Our second and final one for the summer is going to be August 19th at 9 a.m., and that's going to be entitled Reporting and Pollution Prevention Calculators. So we're going to be listening to Kathy Davey from the EPA. She's one of the individuals that created these helpful calculators, and she'll be able to answer all of our questions regarding them. So that's just like pollution prevention calculators and tools like that sometimes can be a little confusing even for myself. So I'm excited to hear from her and learn about that. I'll make sure that I put that registration link in the follow-up email for this as well. So this webinar recording will be available on our website, but if you have any further questions, feel free to contact me at caleb.powell, caleb.powell @tn.gov, and I will be sending, like I said, a follow-up email later today with the information that we talked about. So thanks again, and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Caleb.